Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this morning's edition of Contracting Chatter. I'm your host, Luciana Turner, the founder, CEO, and Chief Executive Officer of the LT&A Consulting Group. Yesterday was my birthday, so I decided I wasn't going live. I took the entire day off to rest, so I am back today. And there is a lot going on in the government sphere. The final aspects of the FY25 budget is moving from the House to the Senate. There's just a whole lot going on. There's an aspect of the defense bill. Everybody needs to go read, especially our young men. There is another component of the bill that was added. Excuse me, everybody. I'm sorry. That was added to the bill. Okay, let's back up to come forward. As we all know, our young men at the age of 18 have to register for selective service. Well, as part of the National Defense Act, they changed it a little bit. And not only do they have to register for selective service, they're automatically registered for the draft. Somebody's going to say, but we haven't had the draft in years. It's not a big deal. It's just a sudden change in language. Now, however you fall on the political spectrum, this is not the platform for that. Have that conversation somewhere else. It's just an interesting change in the bill. So, and the reason they're giving for doing that is to address readiness in our military. Well, that's one of the reasons I saw. So it's just that's just interesting. From a business perspective, good morning, Latanya. Um, you're going to see a lot of contracts around readiness. So there's going to have a training. If you do anything with food preparation, you're going to see a lot of contracts around readiness. Now, in the upcoming year, there's a lot of readiness contracts are going to come out. So keep an eye on that. And readiness takes the form, my glasses are dirty. That's why I keep taking them off and putting them back on. Readiness takes the form of training. Readiness takes the form of staffing. Readiness takes several forms when it comes to military. So be on the lookout for readiness language in contracts from not only DOD, but from some of their sister agencies as well. And if they have readiness on the federal level, this going to appear in state level contracts as well. I would very much, Sam's has a lot of readiness coming out. And if you're a nonprofit, there's a lot of nonprofit readiness contracts out, RFPs out, a lot of readiness. Keep this in mind. The Department of Labor issued a report that the workforce is going to have to do an upskill by the year 20. Initially, it was 2040. Then they changed it to 2030. We're already in 2024. So if you're a trainer, if you're a curriculum developer, this is up your alley. I'm going to take it a little bit further. If you do anything around food preparation, logistics, planning, this is up your alley as well. So I really would keep an eye on that. And it's hitting Sam's already. There's bound to be more once the budget finally passes. Keep an eye on that. And I'm gonna say this, and people may dispute this, but DOD usually sets the trend in government. I'm going to say this again. DOD typically sets the trend in government contracts. So if they're heavy on the readiness, everybody else is going to be heavy on the readiness. I would look, if you're eligible to bid on VA contracts, they're going to be doing a whole lot of readiness as well. So yeah, be on the lookout for that. And remember, when you're decoding the RFP, to be careful of language around key personnel and to be careful around service area and be careful around mobility in the RFPs when it comes to readiness contracts. You want to keep that in mind when you're decoding the RFPs. Because if you misread or miss something in the RFP, and the RFP is included into the contract by reference, both in the RFP, because the RFP clearly states this document becomes a part of the contract, the final contract, and the contract states the RFP is a part of this contract. It says it both places. So it does not have to spell out the RFP. It says it, and that is called the Christian doctrine, where they can just reference another document and say it's included. Something else I want to say to everybody. There are a whole lot of Google lawyers running around here. Be careful of taking advice from people who got their law degrees from Google University. Because they're giving you guys a lot of bad advice. And I'm going to leave it right there. Because somebody I know who, I respect, but some of his stuff is just he's going to give you a starring role in Orange is the New Black if you listen to what he says. I'm going to leave it there. Low-hanging fruit season. It starts in July. Are you ready? In Contracting and Business Week, which goes July 8th through the 12th, I'm going to talk about low-hanging fruit season. I'm going to talk about low-hanging fruit season. I'm talking about it on day 4 and day 5. Day 4, I'm going to talk about it from the perspective of new contractors. I don't care from new contractors, whether you're a seasoned business owner, new in government contracting, or you're a new, good morning, whether or you're a new business owner, just new, but you're just starting government contracting. I'm addressing that day 4. Day 5, I'm doing low hanging fruit season, um, from the perspective of those who are just been doing the thing in government contracting for a while. You have to approach low hanging fruit season differently because you're going to get different results. And what gave me the idea or the concept to discuss it that way is because people always talk about they were being frustrated. Discovery calls, events I used to attend, and I'm talking to people, and several people were like, I don't ever get any results from low hanging fruit season. And somebody else says, well, I closed 10, 12 contracts. The difference was this company was new and this company wasn't. And I'm like, you can't do what they do. Nobody knows you. I don't know why that was a. But I also realized people talk about low hanging fruit season as though everybody is going to win the contract they go after because the government is spending their money. And they're just going to, excuse me, they're just going to spend it just to spend it as though there's no vetting process. That's a lie from the pits of hell. Stop listening to these self-taught, erroneously taught. I decided I'm gonna call myself an expert in government contracting, and they never did a government contract a day in their life. Or I won some contracts and I'm gonna teach you my bad habits because they stumbled upon a government contract. That's what some of these experts running around here are. They won some government contracts and they're teaching you their bad habits. No. Low hanging fruit season has to be dealt with differently depending upon your age. And I don't want you to become, the comment over here, I'm streaming across different platforms. The comment I have over here was her misconception was she was just going to go in and win, win, win. And when she didn't win, she was disappointed. You have to measure it. And your activities need to be slightly different in low hanging fruit season. I'm talking about that during the contracting and business week, which is July 8th through the 12th. If you upgrade to VIP, something I'm doing different this year, is $97 if you go VIP. I'm gonna actually go deeper beyond the conversation. So yeah, just join us for contracting and business week. If all you do is just complimentary sessions, you'll walk away with something that you can implement in your business. If you go VIP, excuse me, you'll get something you can take to the umpteenth level in your business. Days 1 and 2 is business development. Day 3, I'm going into my compliance act. And I'm talking about compliance because I hate for you to win a contract and then have to pay penalties, interest, and fines because you're not doing what you're supposed to do. That's what I do. I'm a compliance officer. So I will always tell you the rules. Whether the point that you don't like it is not my problem. I shouldn't have to do that. Well, honey, what you should have to do and what you do have to do are two different things. Most compliance regulations come from the fact somebody thought that they can do whatever they wanted to do and they got caught. So they came up with a whole level of laws and regulations to stop that from happening again. And somebody remind me to share the story. When I went into compliance, my manager used to work for DCAA, and my air conditioner is really loud. So And he told me he worked on the audit that led to the creation of the labor floor checks. And that's because somebody was billing the government for phantom employees they didn't have. So every audit is because somebody decided to be a crook. I'm gonna just call it what it is. Somebody decided to defraud the government and got caught. So they created an audit and created an extra step. Digging into the legislative history of stuff is eye-opening. Digging into the legislative history of things give you a different perspective. So doing what you say you're going to do each time you do it and being able to prove it will allow you to keep your revenue. Good morning, Chef Flavor. Will allow you to keep your hard-earned revenue and to maintain your profits. Because let me tell you, the penalties and interest hurt. And you cannot include penalties and interest when you calculate your rates for the next year. That goes to unallowable. So you have to eat them costs. So that comes out your profits. One non-compliance can destabilize your business. I'm just saying. And we don't even want to talk about disbarment because due to a change they made in FAR and at the end of 2022, they are debarring. Good morning, Agatha. They are debarring the individual as well as the company. You know, once upon a time, a company got debarred, the people just propped up a new company. No, they're debarring the individual, depending upon how egregious the act was. To the point, you cannot even be an executive in another government contracting company. And as a part of the incurred cost submission, you have to turn in a list of your executives. That's your Schedule O. So yeah, it's really that deep. Yeah, that's your Schedule O. Schedule M is where you sign off this disavow upon pain of going to jail that this is true, accurate, and complete. So we're going to do it right or don't do it at all. Learn the rules of the industry. Respect the industry. As I said in my talk on Saturday, government contracting can change your business. It can scale your business to the next level, but you have to be willing to do it right. And I'm gonna go here. If I'm trying to make money, I don't like giving money back. I worked hard for my money. I do not want to give money to the IRS. I don't want to give money to the not when I did a good job. Not when I'm following the rules. So I do not want to give money back in penalties and interest because I didn't keep a piece of paper or I failed to document something. No, not your girl. I'm here to help you keep from doing it too. I worked hard for my money. You know that song from 1983? I worked hard for my money. No, yeah, I worked hard for my money. I'm not giving it back. Not doing it. So documentation, right systems, all of that. I talk about that in Keys to Government Contracting. I'm gonna re-emphasize that and add a little more to it in the second half of the book. You better treat your business right. People, you better stand on business in your business. Hello, if you want to just go there with it. Um, so the rules, the budgets that are running through or going through the House that's going to Senate Right now, it's time to watch if you want to. I'm a geek, so I occasionally turn into C-SPAN and watch the budget appropriations act committee. A lot of people don't want to read the full budgets as they go through. There's a lot of information in there. There's a lot, and you don't have time. I read them because I like to keep ahead of where contracts are coming from, and I like to keep ahead of where corollary contracts are coming from. If you know what you're doing, when you bid on a contract, you can still say, okay, this is the contract. You're starting to work. You can go to your contracting officer and say, did you think about it? You just have to know how to position it. So that's why I read it. Anybody have any questions about anything that I've covered this morning? But quick synopsis, all these Google University lawyers will, no, don't do it. Seek wise counsel. Everybody under the sound of my voice should have a license to practice attorney on speed dial for contract negotiations, contract reviews, to answer legal questions. Anybody who is telling you you don't need one is somebody you need to say, okay, that's nice, and keep moving. No, you need somebody, because just because you know how to read something don't mean you understood what you read. I hear people say that all the time. I hear people say that all the time. I know how to read. That don't mean you know how to understand. It's not a knock, but it's true. I had somebody arguing a FAR clause with me, and I was looking at them like the first line proves you wrong. But go ahead, go off. Secondly, understand the rules of engagement. That helps you keep your money in your bank account. And you will hear me beat this horse to death. Ensure that your pricing and your billing rates pays you, pays the employee, and pays your business. Now, a lot of your pricing does not allow you to pay your business, which is why when you lose a contract, your business goes unstable. And if you're wondering what I mean by pay your business, I'm talking about profits. And you should keep profits in your business bank account. Your business bank account should have profits in it. I don't, because people confuse revenue and profits, and there's two different things. Revenue is what you bring in, profits is what's left after everything is paid for. You don't, as the business founder, is not living off of your profits. No. And I'm going to say this too. I follow this guy on TikTok. I know he's on YouTube. He's a great tax guy. You have to pay yourself in government contracting. If you're going to become a government contractor, you have to W-2 yourself. All of this, well, you just live off of what's left. You cannot do that in government contracting. No, you cannot. You have to have a salary. You need to appear on that salary scale that you give to the government. No, you cannot do that. One, you shouldn't do that, period. But two, you really need to I don't know. I don't know where that came from. And then you wonder why people look at your business and they don't take you or your business seriously. How much do you earn? Well, my company earned. No, I asked you. Don't forget, according to the Supreme Court, the IRS, you and your business are two separate entities. You're two separate persons. So what your business person earned is different than what you as an individual earn. So why are you claiming the earnings of another person? Walking out the logic. So LTACG earned and Luciana Turner earned. Pay your business and pay yourself. Um, so if anybody have any questions for me on anything I've said today so far, follow the appropriations and you will see, hey Moses, and you will see where the opportunities lie. And you will also get a heads up on what's coming in the future. Readiness there's a lot of contracts out for readiness. So if the government is doing readiness, why aren't you? If the government is issuing RFPs and contracts on readiness, why aren't you? I'm just saying. With that said, I invite you to join me tomorrow morning at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for another segment on contracting chatter. Remember, for the month of June, I'm doing Q&A. Oh, you know what? That's a good topic for tomorrow, the scope of readiness. Latanya, what do you propose a good profit margin percentage is for these contracts? Oh, y'all just throwing out all these questions. I'm going to give you a fluff answer, and it's going to sound like a fluff answer, and it really isn't. Profit margins is something that you and your board of directors have to sit down and discuss. But keep this in mind. Because of negotiations, and they usually target your profit, if you come up with, I'm going to charge 5% profit on everything, well, if they hit your profit margin, where are you going but down? Overhead, they don't touch because your overhead is your overhead. The G&A, they don't touch because your G&A is your G&A. If they have a problem with your pricing, they always go to your profit. So I'm going to answer your question that way. I have a rule that you implemented in my business. I'm not going to tell you what my profit margin in my business is. However, it allows me to say I can take my profit down to this margin and my company will not become unstable. And then it also allows me that if I take it down, I can still pay my company and I will not appear unstable to the government when I bid. Keep in mind, I have a government contracting business as well. So I'm telling you what I did in corporate. In corporate, I was a government compliance officer, so I worked in audit. I answered the audit for government contractors. My company that I worked for was one of the top 5. So I did DCAA audits. I did the incurred cost audits. I did floor labor checks. I did a GAO audit. I have a degree in legal studies. 2 of my teachers were GAO officers who did audits. So I'm telling you what I know and what I've worked in. That's one thing. 2, I've been on government contracts. So I'm telling you what I know, not what I read in a book. That's how I'm answering these questions. So when you're pricing, the government looks at, are you stable and are you going to be there in the long run? and they're going to look at your pricing, and they're going to say her profit margin is this. That is the only rate that you reveal 9 times out of 10 in your budget. So hypothetically, if you bid a 20% profit and your pricing is a little too high, but you're the ideal candidate, they may come back to you and say, we need you to negotiate. Can you take down your price a little bit? Well, you can take your 20% to 10% and more than likely still be stable. However, if your pricing is outlandish, but you only bid 5%, you'll miss and they won't even consider you because you can't go nowhere from 5%. You can't go nowhere but the bankruptcy because they're going to assume your overhead in G&A is out of control. So if they take away your profit, you're an unstable business. And don't forget, they can look at your bid history. So then they're asking themselves, why is your G&A so high? Or why is your overhead so high? You're welcome. And I'm also go here. If your bid rate, most government contractors lose out on the budget. They either do it wrong or their rate is too high or too low. That's just a known fact. And I'm gonna go ahead. If they look at your rate, your bid rate, and they see your business is on crutches, you're bidding too low. There's a such thing as bidding too low. This is not. I'm gonna just say it, and if anybody get offended, go somewhere and breathe. This is not a Baghdad swap meet, and I'm saying it like that because over in the Middle East, it's acceptable to barter to say, okay, this is $10. Well, how about 7? That's acceptable over there. That's why I use that. No, not in government contracting. If you're bidding on something and your price, you come up with a price of $1,000, the government already knows it's the average cost is 5,000. They're looking for something within a 10 to 15% range. They may even go 20. And then you come here with some $1,000, they're looking at you like you don't know what you're doing. You don't know how to run a business. So they're going to say, why would I give it to you? You're not going to be around. And we're going to end up rebidding this. Denied. People misunderstand lowest price technically acceptable. That is a term in government contracting that is a true term. But low cost doesn't mean no profit, and it doesn't mean lowest price technically acceptable. And it doesn't mean bargain basement. This is not Walmart versus Tiffany's. What they're looking for and what they typically do when they go on LT&A, your budget is in one place and your proposals in another. 2 different packages, same envelope. They review your technical proposal first because they don't want to be influenced by your pricing. And then they say, okay, this bunch won because technically they were on point. They were on point. They're at the top. That's the cream that rose to the top. Now we're going to look at pricing and see who were the lowest price that was able to do the job. That's what low price technically acceptable means. People are using jargon and don't understand what the jargon means. And they do it in more than government contracting. Now, I'm going to say this and then I'm going to close out for tomorrow morning. Small business is a term that the government came up with, SBA came up with. People think, you're welcome. Excuse me. People think small business mean new business. No, it don't. New business mean new business. Small business, as defined by the SBA, is a business earning revenues of less than $10 million, depending upon the NAICS code. Because some NAICS codes is 2 million, and some NAICS codes is 5 million. And some NAICS codes is businesses with less than 500 employees. And some NAICS codes, it's less, excuse me, it's less than a certain number of square footage. People are misappropriating terms, and they're bringing it into the common vernacular and don't understand how the terms are used. That is why I go into lives, I go into discussions, and I can tell an expert within 5 minutes because they're misusing a term. And then I disregard everything they say after that. I am an expert at what I do. There are certain things I don't know, and you will not hear me say it. I will use analogies, and I will just be upfront when I say, hey, everybody, I'm getting ready to walk through this analogy. I'm not an expert. I cannot build a house from scratch, but I love using the tiny house analogy because everybody understands houses. We all have a basic understanding of houses. So I always use a house analogy. But you will never hear me go into the details of making stuff plumb and no. But I know enough to walk the analogy. But I will never get up there with in a construction in a construction conference and call myself an expert in construction. I just run an analogy because people understand houses. So those were very good questions. Does anybody else have any questions before I close out for this morning? Oh, you did, Kiki, you did have a question. I'm going to cover the scope of readiness tomorrow. I think that's a great question for tomorrow. So for tomorrow morning, because I have a meeting at 11 o'clock I need to prepare for. Tomorrow morning, I'll talk about scope of readiness on a very high level. And the scope of contracting readiness. Because on my podcast, I talked about the scope of audit readiness. So tomorrow, I'll talk about the scope of contracting readiness. And I'll probably turn that into a podcast episode. So thank you. So with that, I invite you to join me tomorrow morning at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for another episode of Contracting Chatter, where we discuss business and government contracting. I'm your host, Luciana Turner, of the LT&A Consulting Group, where we are government contracting training and consultants. Thank you for your time and attention to today. If you wish to book a consultation, you can go to https ltacg.as.me. It's pinned everywhere. And I'll see you tomorrow morning. Have an amazing day.